Have you ever felt like life made you grow up before you were ready? Like one day you were just a kid, and then the next you had to figure things out on your own? For some people, growing up happens when they turn 18, and for others, happens when life stops giving them a choice, just like it did for mine. My pa- I was born after my parents moved to a new country, far from everything and everyone they knew. We didn't have extended family down the street. It was just us. And my parents weren't always around. They were busy working and providing for us, especially my mom, who was unlike the typical image of a mother. She was instead busy working overtime. And even when she did come home, she would be exhausted, yet would still cook for us and support us as much as she possibly could. When I was just 5 years old, my sister, who's 12 years older than me, left for college. 3 years later, my brother did too. While most kids had their space filled with the usual chaos and laughter that comes with siblings, I had silence. And being the youngest, I watched them move on while I was stuck figuring out where I fit. They were chasing their dreams and living their lives. And suddenly I realized that I was on my own, meaning that this silence was my opportunity to grow into my own person. While most kids used to rely on their siblings or parents for help, I had already gotten used to relying on just myself. My sister was like a second mom to me. You know how older siblings tend to take up on the extra responsibilities and watching out for their younger siblings when no one is around? Yeah, that was her. She sacrificed pieces of her own childhood to take care of me. But when she left, that role disappeared overnight. It wasn't always easy. Matter of fact, it felt like someone threw me in deep water before I knew how to swim. No life jacket, no support, just either sink or figure things out. But it was a learning experience. The absence of my siblings made me embrace responsibility and to start taking control of my own life. But it was weird. I used to see people complaining about their annoying siblings, and I'd think to myself, must be nice. Because honestly, I was pretty jealous. I didn't always have that. And my siblings were off doing adult things while I was stuck figuring out where I fit. Too young to be a part of their world, but never fully relating to kids my age either. And even when my siblings would come around and visit, ask about my life, how are you? Do you need anything? And instead of answering like a normal person, I'd snap at them. Why do you care? Why are you suddenly interested in my life? It's none of your business. And even when they gave me that older sibling advice, I ignored it, convinced that I knew what was best for myself. And they thought I was being that rude younger sibling. You know the stereotype, always throwing tantrums and getting away with everything. But that wasn't my reality. I just didn't know how to let them in anymore. Their concern felt like control, like they were trying to parent me after being gone for so long. Deep down, I knew it wasn't their fault. But when you spend so many years making your own decisions, it's hard to accept someone else's input, even when it comes from love. Even though it pushes people away, growing up quickly teaches you independence. Although it was a loss, I may admit, it was also a gain, a big gain. Yes, I missed out on that siblings experience, the late night talks, the inside jokes, and I missed out on learning from them as well. But on the other hand, I gained something. I learned responsibility, and I had to make decisions on my own and handle my schoolwork without leaning on anyone. And often, it may seem hard at first. It wasn't always a smooth sailing, but each little obstacle taught me something valuable. And that's how I discovered my own resilience. So, but what does it really mean to grow up too fast? The loneliness it brings. But let's look at the positive side, the independence it builds, and the lessons that come with it. Even though life is hard alone, still, learning to stand strong on your own is just as powerful. Growing up faster than I expected made me more self sufficient, and it made me embrace the idea of growth and that it didn't necessarily mean losing my childhood. Take my sister, for example. She had to take up on many responsibilities that were way too mature for her age. And seeing her handle all that balance so flawlessly made me gain a unique perspective at a young age, which inspired me to thrive on my own. But between the ages of 9 to 12, I felt trapped in my own sadness. I played the victim, blamed my parents, and focused on everything that I had lost and what others had that I didn't. And I used to bottle up all my emotions and distancing myself from people, thinking that asking for help meant that I was weak. And it was so overwhelming to the point where it weighed on me in ways that I didn't even understand at the time. But I'm not the only one who felt this way. Many kids who are either the eldest siblings or had to be the strong ones in their families dealt with the same problem as well. And after a while, it's not just learning to ask for help, it's about letting yourself feel it all. Once you push through everything alone, you don't just block out the bad feelings, you start shutting out the good ones too, including kindness and believing that people truly care about you. But over time, I learned that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you trust the people around you. And one big lesson I've learned is that growth isn't about following a clear path. Usually, it does come from structure and stability, but it also comes from stepping into the unknown, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And that gives you true strength. And you use that true strength to build confidence to know when you should lean on others and when you should stand on your own. Independence and resilience are valuable, but so is connection. Sometimes it's about knowing when to reach out. It makes you more human. But building self reliance and balancing it with support wasn't easy, especially since I've dealt and handled everything on my own. But it taught me how to adapt. It taught me not to worry and stress when there's change, except instead, I learned to accept it. As a kid, I had to handle the little things, handle my schoolwork, holding myself accountable, and staying organized. And obviously, as I grew older, these challenges became bigger, and I pushed through tough times and big challenges without asking anyone. But how did I end up balancing and finding the balance? I realized that independence and support can go hand in hand, that they can coexist, that I could be strong and ask for help, that I didn't need to isolate myself to be independent. I stopped seeing independence as something as I had to prove and saw it as something that's a part of who I am. Embracing the hard parts of my journey made me recognize the growth that came from them. And it's okay to miss what I had lost, but to also appreciate what I have gained. And in that peace, I found the confidence to move on forward, carrying the lessons of my past. So obviously, growing up quickly wasn't without its challenges, but it shaped me in ways that I wouldn't trade. It made me responsible, confident, and ready to face anything life threw my way. And in that balance, it made me more aware of my surroundings and my future. And even though I didn't always have that sibling experience, I earned something just as valuable, the ability to trust myself and my decisions. I no longer feel lost in this world, knowing I can face whatever comes next. So, if you're someone who's in a similar boat as me and weren't always around your family or have an absent loved one, remember this. You don't have to face everything alone. Growth isn't about reaching a final destination. It's an ongoing process that is not only based on your experiences, but by the ones around you and your relationships with others. Yes, learning to stand strong on your own is important, but this independence gives you the chance to know when you should lean on others, but not because you need saving, but because connection is just as valuable as independence and self reliance. It's about knowing when you do need help. Your loved ones are there for you to support you. So don't be scared to ask for help. Thank you.